He disappeared without a sound, no distress call, no final message, just a single frame of video that cut to black. 6 months later, hikers stumbled across his camera at the edge of a vertical shaft deep in the Nevada desert. What it captured in those final hours turned a missing persons case into something far more chilling, and raised a question no one could answer. Why was this cave removed from every modern map? And who wanted it forgotten? Eli Mercer wasn't a big name, just another YouTuber with 10,000 subscribers, hiking remote trails and documenting forgotten places across the American Southwest. He was 29 years old, from Boise, Idaho. But unlike countless adventure vloggers chasing viral moments at overcrowded national parks, Eli had carved out a unique niche. His channel, Off the Grid Expeditions, focused on locations that didn't exist in travel guides. Eli's background made him uniquely suited for this work. A former geology student, he possessed an obsessive knowledge of topographical mapping and geological survey data. His methodology was meticulous. He would spend weeks cross-referencing historical mining claims with current satellite imagery, looking for areas that had been documented decades ago but seemed forgotten by modern explorers. His videos weren't flashy. No clickbait thumbnails or manufactured drama. Instead, Eli offered something rare, authentic discovery. He would methodically document his preparation, explain historical context, and maintain a respectful tone when exploring culturally significant areas. In early February 2022, Eli had been particularly excited about a discovery he'd made while digitizing his grandfather's collection of 1960s geological surveys. His grandfather had worked as a surveyor for the Bureau of Land Management during the Cold War era, and his personal archives contained maps that had never been cross-referenced with modern databases. I found references to a cave system that appears on 3 different government documents from the 1960s. Eli told his camera during a February 10th upload, but it's not mentioned anywhere in current geological databases. It's like it was deliberately forgotten. The location was near Toothpick Mesa, about 22 miles outside Kayenta, Arizona, just on the edge of Navajo Nation land. The mesa rose nearly 800 feet from the desert floor, its name coming from its distinctive narrow spire shape when viewed from the east. What made Eli's discovery intriguing was the inconsistency in documentation. A 1962 mining survey mentioned extensive natural cave systems with artificial modifications. A 1965 geological report noted structural instability in subsurface chambers requiring immediate assessment. But by 1970, all references had vanished from official documents. Eli researched climbing techniques, studied weather patterns, and reached out to local Navajo cultural liaisons. The responses were concerning. Mary Begay, a cultural preservation officer, was direct. That mesa has a bad history. People who go up there alone. Some don't come back. There are places where the earth remembers things that shouldn't be disturbed. But Eli wasn't chasing ghost stories. He was chasing undocumented geography, the thrill of filming what hadn't been filmed. In his final upload, dated February 18, 2022, Eli appeared more excited than his subscribers had ever seen him. The video showed him in his apartment, gear spread across his living room floor like a tactical operation. I found something weird in Arizona, he said, adjusting his camera angle to show his collection of maps and documents. Not on any hiking forums. Locals don't even talk about it. The more I research this place, the more convinced I become that there's something significant here that's been deliberately obscured from public knowledge. He walked viewers through his equipment checklist with characteristic thoroughness. His primary camera system consisted of a chest-mounted GoPro Hero 10 for continuous recording, a handheld Sony A7R4 for detailed photography, and a DJI Mini 3 Pro drone for aerial documentation. His climbing gear included 200 feet of dynamic rope rated for 2,500 pounds, a full rack of climbing protection, and redundant anchor systems. Most importantly, Eli had invested in a Garmin InReach satellite communicator, a device that could send GPS coordinates and text messages even in areas with no cellular coverage. The device was programmed to automatically send his location to 3 emergency contacts every 4 hours. "I'll be completely off-grid for about 72 hours, he explained to his camera. "But I've got redundant safety systems and enough supplies for a week if something goes wrong. I'll post the full video once I'm back." That video never came. Eli departed Boise on February 19th, driving his modified Jeep Wrangler equipped with additional fuel tanks, water storage, and off-road recovery equipment. His route took him south through Nevada and into Arizona, a journey of approximately 800 miles that he completed in 2 days, stopping to document interesting geological formations along the way. On February 21st, he reached the small town of Kayenta, Arizona. Population 5,189, Kayenta serves as a hub for tourists visiting Monument Valley and other attractions in the region. But Eli wasn't interested in the tourist sites. He spent his first night at a local motel, the Desert Rose Inn, where the desk clerk later remembered him as polite but focused, like he had something important to do. The next morning, Eli visited Kayenta Trading Post to purchase additional supplies and gather local knowledge about accessing remote areas around Toothpick Mesa. The Trading Post owner, James Yazzie, later told investigators that Eli had asked specific questions about historical mining activity in the region. He wanted to know about the old government projects from the 60s, Yazzie recalled. "Most people don't even know about that stuff. I told him the same thing I tell everyone who asks about those places. People don't go up that mesa alone. Not for a reason you'd understand unless you lived here." Despite the warnings, Eli seemed determined to proceed. He rented additional climbing gear from a local outfitter and purchased 3 days' worth of emergency rations. His final documented interaction was with Sarah Tsosi, a Navajo archaeologist who happened to be at the trading post that morning. "He showed me copies of old geological surveys," Tsosi later reported. "Maps from the 1960s that showed cave systems I'd never heard of. I tried to explain to him that some places are avoided for reasons that go beyond simple danger. But he seemed convinced this was just superstition." On the morning of February 22nd, Eli loaded his Jeep and headed toward Toothpick Mesa. His planned route would take him along a series of increasingly primitive dirt roads until he reached a natural parking area about 3 miles from the base of the mesa. From there, he would hike to the cave system he'd identified on the historical surveys. At 11:47 a.m., Eli sent his final communication, a Snapchat message to his friend Marcus Webback in Boise. The photo showed a towering red rock formation against a brilliant blue sky. The caption read, "This ridge goes down into something big." Marcus later described the photo in detail. You could see Eli's shadow in the foreground, and behind him was this massive rock wall with what looked like a dark opening about halfway up. The lighting was weird, though. Even though it was obviously a bright, sunny day, there was something about that dark area that seemed to absorb light. At 12:15 p.m., Eli's satellite communicator sent its final automated position update. The GPS coordinates placed him at the base of a cliff face on the northwestern side of Toothpick Mesa. After that, silence. His phone never pinged another cell tower. His credit cards remained unused. The satellite communicator, which was designed to be virtually indestructible and capable of transmitting even from inside caves, never sent another signal. For 48 hours, Eli's disappearance went unnoticed. His YouTube subscribers assumed he was off-grid, as indicated. But by February 26th, concern was growing. His parents reported him missing on February 27th. The response was bureaucratic. Since Eli was an adult who had voluntarily entered a remote area with no evidence of foul play, the case was classified as missing person, voluntary risk. Jurisdictional complexities made things worse. Toothpick Mesa sat on boundaries between state land, federal territory, and the Navajo Nation. Detective Ray Howerton later explained, "We had a missing person who had deliberately gone to one of the most dangerous areas in our jurisdiction. The terrain around Toothpick Mesa is extremely hazardous. We would have been risking multiple rescue personnel to search for someone who had chosen to enter a known danger zone." A limited search was conducted on March 2nd. Eli's abandoned Jeep was found with all non-essential gear inside, but there was no trail to follow beyond the Mesa's base. Nearly 6 months passed with no developments in Eli's case. His YouTube channel became a memorial of sorts, with subscribers leaving comments wondering what had happened to their favorite explorer. His parents hired a private investigator, but even experienced desert search specialists were reluctant to tackle the terrain around Toothpick Mesa. The case might have remained unsolved indefinitely if not for a coincidence on August 11, 2022. Nathan Sorensen and Leah Park, both experienced backcountry climbers from Flagstaff, were exploring the Toothpick Mesa ridgeline as part of a geological photography project. They were documenting erosion patterns in the sandstone formations when disaster struck. Leah, who was rappelling down a section of the cliff face to photograph rock layers, slipped on loose shale. Her anchor held, but the fall left her stranded on a narrow ledge about 30 feet below her intended route. Nathan had to descend to help her reset her climbing system and find a safe route back to the top. It was while they were examining the stability of the rock around Leah's position that they noticed something wedged in a narrow crevice. A faded gray hiking boot, half buried in dust and debris. The boot was a Merrell Moab 3, size 10.5, exactly the type Eli had been wearing according to the missing person report. Near the boot was a shattered GoPro camera, sun-bleached and scorched from months of desert heat. The camera's housing was cracked, but the memory card appeared intact. Just beyond that discovery, a rope lay coiled at the edge of a massive shaft in the rock, an 80-foot vertical drop that disappeared into darkness. Nathan and Leah immediately contacted the Navajo County Sheriff's Office. Within hours, a recovery team had retrieved the evidence and confirmed what they already suspected. The gear belonged to Eli Mercer. The GoPro's memory card contained 2 hours and 37 minutes of footage, time-stamped and unedited. For investigators and Eli's family, viewing this material was both a relief and a source of deeper concern. Finally, they had answers about what had happened to Eli. But those answers only raised more disturbing questions. The footage began at 1:23 p.m. on February 22nd, showing Eli's approach to the cave entrance he'd identified from the historical surveys. His excitement was palpable as he documented the opening, a narrow fissure in the rock face, approximately 4 feet wide and 6 feet tall. "This isn't in any survey from the last 30 years, he said, panning his camera across the entrance. "No graffiti, no trash, no signs that anyone has been here recently. It's completely pristine." The initial exploration footage showed Eli moving carefully through the cave's entrance chamber. The walls were unusual. Instead of the red sandstone typical of the region, the interior was formed of black basalt, more like lava tubes than sedimentary caves. This geological anomaly was something Eli noted with professional interest. "This basalt formation shouldn't exist here," he observed, running his hand along the smooth, dark walls. The geological surveys from the area indicate nothing but sandstone and limestone. "This looks volcanic, but there's no record of volcanic activity in this region within the last several million years." As Eli moved deeper into the cave system, the footage revealed an increasingly complex network of chambers and passages. Some areas showed clear signs of artificial modification: perfectly straight walls, precisely carved corners, and what appeared to be mounting points for equipment or lighting systems. "Someone has definitely been here before," Eli noted, focusing his camera on a series of holes drilled into the rock at regular intervals. "These look like anchor points for cables or conduits. This isn't natural formation, and it's not recent work either. The tool marks are weathered, probably decades old." The most revealing and disturbing portion of the footage began at timestamp 2 hours 41 minutes and 18 seconds. Eli had been exploring for over an hour when he reached a chamber that opened onto a dramatic vertical shaft. The opening was approximately 10 feet in diameter, with smooth walls that disappeared into darkness below. "This is it," Eli said, setting his camera down on a stable rock ledge. "This matches the description from the 1962 survey. Vertical access shaft, approximately 80 feet to lower chamber system. Time to see what's down there." The footage showed Eli methodically setting up his rappelling system. He tested multiple anchor points, checked and double-checked his equipment, and even performed practice descents of a few feet to ensure everything was working properly. His technique was flawless, exactly what you'd expect from an experienced climber with proper training. "Rope's not catching right," he muttered at timestamp 2 hours 52 minutes and 14 seconds, adjusting his anchor system. "The rock here is more fractured than it looks. I'll just go a little way down and check the stability." What happened next was captured in horrifying detail. Eli descended approximately 15 feet into the shaft when his rope anchor suddenly failed. But the failure wasn't gradual or preceded by warning signs. The rope simply separated from the anchor point as if it had been cut. "No grip, damn, wait!" Eli's voice echoed in the shaft as he fell. The camera tumbled sideways, its view spinning between the circle of daylight above and the darkness below. For the next 45 minutes, the GoPro continued recording. The audio captured Eli's labored breathing, occasional movement, and the sound of rocks falling from above. His voice could be heard intermittently, sometimes calling for help, sometimes apparently talking to himself. At timestamp 3 hours 23 minutes and 45 seconds, there was a change in the audio. Eli's breathing became more regular, and he seemed to be moving around, apparently uninjured despite his fall. This gave investigators hope that he might have survived the initial accident. But at timestamp 3 hours 31 minutes and 2 seconds, something changed. Eli's voice became a whisper. "There's someone else down here." For the next several minutes, the audio captured what sounded like a conversation, but only Eli's voice was clearly audible. He seemed to be responding to someone, pausing as if listening to replies that the camera couldn't pick up. "How long have you been here?" Eli asked at 3 hours 33 minutes and 17 seconds. A pause. Then, "That's impossible. This place was sealed in the 1970s. Another long pause. Then Eli's voice, sounding confused and frightened. "I don't understand. Why won't you help me get out?" The final audible words came at timestamp 3 hours 38 minutes and 56 seconds. Eli whispered, barely loud enough for the camera's microphone to detect, "You're not supposed to be here either." Then silence. Forensic analysis of the scene revealed details that transformed Eli's disappearance from a tragic accident into something far more sinister. The rope that had failed hadn't frayed or worn through from stress or environmental factors. High-resolution photography and microscopic analysis showed that the rope had been cleanly severed, as if cut with a sharp blade. Dr. Jennifer Martinez, a materials scientist who specialized in rope and cable analysis, was unequivocal in her assessment. The fiber patterns are consistent with a single, deliberate cut made with a very sharp instrument. There's no evidence of gradual failure, no stress indicators, no environmental degradation. Someone cut this rope while Mr. Mercer was descending. The implications were chilling. If someone had deliberately cut Eli's rope, it meant another person had been at the cave site. But the remoteness of the location and the difficulty of access made this seem impossible. Further analysis of the scene revealed additional disturbing details. Several nearby stones appeared to have been strategically repositioned, almost as if someone had been constructing a deliberate trap. The natural talus slope around the shaft opening showed signs of manipulation. Rocks that should have settled randomly showed patterns consistent with deliberate placement. Most significantly, crime scene investigators discovered partial footprints in a patch of sand near the shaft opening. The prints were size 12 boots with a distinctive tread pattern, significantly larger than Eli's size 10.5 feet. The prints approached the shaft from the cave's interior, suggesting someone had emerged from deeper within the cave system. But there were no corresponding prints leading away from the area. Whoever had been there had apparently vanished without leaving an exit trail. The deeper mystery unraveled when investigative journalist Sarah Chun uncovered a 1971 mining report declassified through the Freedom of Information Act. The document revealed that the area beneath Toothpick Mesa had housed Cold War-era surveillance installations built into natural cave systems. Project Blackstone, which operated from 1962 to 1970, had used the caves as underground monitoring stations for detecting Soviet nuclear tests. But the project was abruptly terminated after structural collapses and personnel losses. 3 workers died in cave-ins, and 2 others disappeared under circumstances requiring further investigation. The report noted elevated radiation levels from experimental equipment deemed too dangerous to remove. The facility was sealed with concrete barriers, but several natural entrances to the remote cave system were never properly closed. The discovery of Project Blackstone provided context but raised more troubling questions. If the cave system had been sealed for 50 years, who had cut Eli's rope? Where had the mysterious footprints come from? Recovery efforts were attempted twice but abandoned due to safety concerns. The shaft was structurally unstable, and ground-penetrating radar revealed a vast network of chambers that might still contain hazardous materials. The case officially remains suspended. Not solved, not closed, just unanswered. The cave entrance has been sealed, though determined explorers could still find access. Eli's footage leaves investigators with more questions than answers. Enhanced audio analysis by FBI specialists couldn't identify the voices Eli seemed to respond to. Yet the physical evidence, cut rope, moved stones, mysterious footprints, suggests something concrete. Eli Mercer's YouTube channel has become a digital memorial, with his final video serving as both inspiration and warning to urban explorers. His documentation has been studied by search and rescue organizations as an example of how even careful planning can't account for every danger. His parents established the Eli Mercer Foundation for Wilderness Safety, providing emergency communication equipment to solo adventurers. But they've never stopped hoping for answers. The GoPro footage has been viewed thousands of times by investigators and amateur detectives. Some claim to hear additional voices in enhanced audio. Others point to shadows suggesting another presence in the cave. But the most disturbing aspect is the simplest. Eli Mercer didn't just vanish. He documented his final moments in excruciating detail. And what that footage captured wasn't a fall or a misstep or an accident. It was something or someone who had been waiting in the darkness beneath Toothpick Mesa. Waiting for decades in a place supposed to be sealed and forgotten. Waiting for the next curious explorer to venture too far from the light. The camera remains. The questions remain. And somewhere in the darkness below, the waiting continues.